What are you wearing today?
This little thing right here.
That little thing?
This is an Orca, and it's a Sounders throwback kit, if you will, part of the latest MLS archive collection, I think was the official name they came out with just before the 2025 All-Star game in Austin, Texas. So I was able to pick this bad boy up thanks to some friendly folks at Adidas.
I think there's some really good ones, by the way, in this collection, but my sad outfit today reflects a horrible thing that happened, and I wanted to tell you, you're not going to believe it. So all my jersey collection was in a drawer with a dehumidifying package. So somehow that dehumidifying package exploded. But I was so happy because my Neymar jersey that he signed before he was leaving for Barcelona from Santos is totally safe. And then I was looking at it and I'm like, I think I should sell this. It's signed generic to whoever, it doesn't say Asli, whatever.
Dear eBay.
I think I'm going to do eBay and sell it. He just won. I feel like he's only famous maybe for a little bit more. And if I'm going to cash out on this, relic from history, it has to be now, especially when all the Santos fans are going to be like, I want that jersey,
Yeah, listen, 2026 World Cup is coming up. Brazil, one of the favorites, as they always are, as the most successful team. So I don't know, maybe it's worth hanging on until after, this time next year, depending if Brazil can win, then maybe that value skyrockets a little bit. I don't know.
But there's a risk. What if he retires from football sooner than that? He's one of those players that age way too rapidly. And I feel like he retired back in Santos, his hometown. And to be honest, when I interviewed him in 2013, when he was leaving, he was, of course, I'm sure it was a big honor to be picked by Barcelona, but I don't think he looked that happy about leaving back then. I think he just wanted to be the big fish in a small pond all his life, instead of being maybe one of the mediocre fishes in a big pond. I don't know. That's my 2 cents about his experience in Europe.
I don't know. I wouldn't consider him a mediocre fish when he was playing for Barcelona and part of that front three attack there. With Messi and Suarez, they were just absolutely amazing altogether.
They were absolutely amazing. He couldn't catch up to them.
I understand, but it's part of all of it. And I think you brought up an interesting point too of he's already retired, right? He's back home. He's playing for the local club and doing all that. And I think the way a lot of these players go out as part of their swan song, right? You have some players who go back to Argentina and Brazil and play for their local clubs and really give back to that club that, facilitated that growth to stardom. And then you have a lot of players, probably since 2007, coincidentally, a lot of players have come to the United States to retire. I know Americans usually like to go abroad. They'll go to Florida, we'll go to Arizona, we'll go to Europe, that kind of thing. But there's a lot of soccer players, 30 plus, who are coming to the US, and no shade to the MLS. They come to Major League Soccer because they can be a big fish in a smaller pond. They also have a benefit of anonymity because Neymar tries to walk down the streets in his hometown or in Europe or anything like that, he's going to get mobbed. Different story if he's in Cincinnati. So I think it's very interesting to see which players have an interest in coming to the US to finish out their careers. And obviously we've seen a big push in that since Major League Soccer came out with the designated player rule in 2007.
I think, we've been asking this question, I think soccer fans and people interested in this business, is MLS the retirement league?
Listen, I don't know if it's the retirement league, but there's a case to say that it is a retirement league. I know MLS claims they're not. I know some people say they're not, but there's plenty of people who do. So we're going to unpack that and a lot more fun stuff on this episode of Finance of Football. I'm sports journalist Michael LoRé.
And I'm Asli Pelit with The Athletic. Let's go back. Let's go back to earlier years of when football was beginning to take some space in American sports ecosystem. Both NASL and US Soccer gained global notoriety thanks to signing aging superstars. I'm thinking back to New York Cosmos they did in the 70s by signing Pelit. And then he was 34 at the time and he was still great. Beckenbauer was 31, and they were the two stars that filled NFL stadiums when they played. And then I think another report that, that you pulled out that's so interesting, the CS Football Observatory's 2023 report cites data from the prior month analyzing the average age of players across 48 leagues globally. MLS was the 10th oldest league.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like MLS is a league, obviously, as anyone who follows soccer in the US knows, came out of us hosting the 1994 World Cup. Part of the deal of us hosting the World Cup in 1994 was we were going to start a top tier men's professional soccer league. Major League Soccer started after that. It's celebrating its 30th season now, the year ahead of the 2026 World Cup coming to the US, Canada, and Mexico. And as the league grew and evolved, we had our own stars, Americans and South Americans and everybody who came into the league. I think the introduction of the DP rule really changed everything for the trajectory of Major League Soccer and soccer in the US, which basically permitted teams to sign up to 3 players, and the transfer fee and their salary wouldn't go towards the salary cap. So it's kind of like a cheat code, like a get out of free card. And that launched in 2007. David Beckham was the guy. And, the league has had for the last, 18 years, whatever that math is since then, a ton of stars from all around the world who have come and played. But with that, there is kind of a negative connotation because these guys are already stars. They're established players, and then they're coming to MLS. So it's like, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And I think there's really value in both.
When you're trying to grow the sport in a country that wasn't interested in that sport prior, you have to make a splash. You have to bring a big name, someone so that maybe they don't like the sport, but they do know the person. Ahmet Ertegün, who happens to also be from my high school, a huge Galatasaray fan and the owner of Atlantic Records, founded, New York Cosmos out of his love for the sport. He said, the only way to bring football here is by bringing the best in the sport, which was, think about it, like David Beckham is famous, Messi is famous, but Pelit is the king. He brought the king, and that did serve his purpose. I mean, they actually did manage to fill out a 70,000 people stadium with him. It's a great business idea, but of course, the question is, what does it do in long term?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the tough balance, right? Because you bring these people in like David Beckham, and they did the Calvin Klein or whatever underwear ad where he's just there with the abs and the sweat and all that kind of stuff like that. And we've seen it over the last, like I said, 18, 20 years since. And it's not only in the US, right? China a bunch of years ago made a huge push to try to sign big name players because they made it a priority. Hey, we want to build up our national team. We want soccer to be the number one sport here. We want to host a World Cup, all of that. That obviously hasn't panned out, right? I'd say the biggest name and maybe success story they signed was Oscar, the former Chelsea player. And he was over there and he played out the rest of his career in China.
And guess what? Nobody remembers him. There's some leagues that I don't think have the same. I mean, you might make money, but you'll forgotten. It's different with MLS, I think. This is more of a world stage. And potentially, even though the numbers weren't that good, Apple TV, you can actually watch it from anywhere in the world. Like, I think we'll go back to that a little bit to talk about it. But I feel like everyone who went to China, Azerbaijan, Qatar, and even Saudi Arabia is thinking, and some of the Saudi Arabia, Super League, transfers after one season wanted to come back because they're like, this was great business, but I will be forgotten quicker than I want to be.
And that's kind of the decision is, do you go to one of these countries that maybe isn't as known for soccer and the league isn't as big as, Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, etc., and you go knowing I'm going to build my own personal brand. Obviously, that is more of an opportunity in the United States, just based on the market, Hollywood, the commercialization, all that kind of stuff like that, going back to David Beckham's underwear billboard. I haven't been to Saudi Arabia since Ronaldo has signed. Granted, I don't think I've ever been there. But I'm sure he's plastered all over the place, right? And they sign guys like Darwin Nunez, and all these other guys are going, and they're kind of just this like, hey, come here because we have all these big name players. Now, in the long term, does that pay dividends for the Saudi Pro League and for the Saudi Arabian men's national team? Are they going to see all these benefits? We're trying to figure that out in the United States too, right? Does bringing Messi and Suarez and all of these big name guys here in their kind of final acts of their career, is that going to pay dividends in the long run? Or is it, okay, Messi was here, his contract is up at the end of this year. There's so many conversations to bring him back. I know clubs in Saudi Arabia are trying to offer him more money than God, but what happens next? And I think that's what we're seeing now with MLS is they just announced a few more DP signings who are, I don't want to say over the hill because, 30 is the new 20 in soccer lately, but,
Don't say DePaul. DePaul, the motorcito, is like kind of, he's like here. He is 31. I guess
I wasn't
he's
even
not over the hill. But I would say
thinking about Messi's bodyguard. I was thinking of Thomas Müller from Bayern Munich.
Oh, yeah.
A whole career there, an absolute legend. Is he going to retire? Is he going to get into golf? I know he's a huge golfer, and then he goes to the Vancouver Whitecaps. But you look at Son as well to LAFC, right? I know he's going to help the U.S. win a World Cup. Like the council person, I think, misspoke.
When a World Cup comes, we're expecting a win here in Los Angeles for the USA, aren't we, everybody? And there you go. And so we're here to support you to get that done.
Which is just a very bad look for us as we're trying to grow soccer in this country.
I feel like Son and perhaps Messi are both very smart transfers. Los Angeles has probably one of the world's biggest Korean populations outside of Korea. Think about, from the team's perspective, how many more seats they're going to fill thanks to him playing the home games. And when we look at the business impact of Messi, which both of us wrote in the past, I mean, since Messi arrived, how many audience records have been broken? They sold out NFL stadiums because people just wanted to see him. So there is a business impact. And going back to Apple deal, I think the numbers, you wrote a great piece about it a few weeks ago, like how the 120,000 viewership number that Don Garber explained was at the same time great and worrisome, because if you take Messi out of it, like how many people really watch this league? So when you bring a big player, you see immediate results. They do pay for their salary. But I think the question you just asked really resonates with me. What is their immediate impact in the sport? How they're growing the quality of the league in terms of sporting value. I think at Messi's case, there's that player, Grimashi, the young kid that plays with him, who keeps talking about like how much he learned from him, which must be great. But, is that enough?
Yeah. No, again, there is exponential value in bringing in someone, especially of Messi's caliber, right? But my concern is how reliant can you be on these stars that if and when Messi leaves, because again, he is no spring chicken, neither is Suarez or Busquets or Alba or any of those guys, eventually they're going to leave. Then what does Inter Miami become? Is it, oh, well, they're not really a thing anymore because they don't have Messi? Or do they go out and they say, well, now we need to bring in Neymar, or now we need to bring in this person? I'm just saying, like, I just worry about, again, it was kind of goes back to our Club World Cup conversation about a saturated fixture schedule, that if you're having these competitions for a short-term gain, how does it affect things in the long run? So Messi leaves, what does Apple viewership look like? Are that many more people going to tune in because of Son and Müller? I don't know. Probably not, because Messi is one of the most popular people on the planet. So I think I'm a big wrestling fan.
I never knew that. How many sports do you follow? What do you do? Soccer, golf, wrestling. I mean, just like you have not enough hours in a day to like.
Yeah, exactly. I just sit around and watch TV all day.
You just sit and watch something.
But no, you grow up in the Attitude Era in the 90s, The Rock and Stone Cold and Triple H and Shawn Michaels, all that great stuff. But wrestling brings back old superstars, aging superstars. Brock Lesnar just came back after a couple years away and maybe some legal, questionable things. He came back at SummerSlam.
Brock Lesnar with an F5 to John Cena.
And everybody was like, oh my God, Brock Lesnar's back. That's going to get you an immediate pop. People are going to be talking about it on social media. People are going to tune in on Monday night on Netflix to see, is he going to come back? Is he going to make a name? Is he going to challenge? So it's the same with Messi. Oh, they're coming to Chicago. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Should I buy tickets? Oh, they're so expensive, that kind of stuff. But again, that's an immediate pop and excitement. Messi leaves and then Miami goes and plays Chicago. Do people go, oh, I want to go see Inter Miami and Chicago play, but Messi's not there anymore? So it's like 2-3 years from now, is that excitement there, or who are these clubs relying on to bring in to get butts in seats and get people during this traveling circus to be like, oh, I want to come see this person.
And look at it, like Pele in the 70s, then Beckham came in 2007, and then another 20 years later, Messi. Like stars like that only come to the stage every 20 to 30 years anyways. Like we're not going to have another one lined up. I don't think, there will be someone like Messi just in 5 years from now. But we should also look at something else. And I feel like this is, again, maybe a negative thing for Major League Soccer. But a lot of clubs come to US to recruit young talent, grow them and train them outside in European leagues. And there's some really good examples of that, which then puts also MLS into a second, maybe troublesome bucket. Like the good talent leaves too quickly. I can go and play the Champions League, get better at what I'm doing. So I think it's easier to convince a player here to go play in Europe, not only from the financial perspective, but from an experience perspective, because then they will get to really be taken more seriously and say, I'm playing in the top 5 leagues, right? Even if it's Portugal, it's an incredibly, interesting league to play. Like even you go to Turkey and it's so much more competitive and like demanding. Like if especially you're 21, 22, you want to work your butt off to like get somewhere. Like you don't want an early retirement. Taking this conversation back to, our earlier point, you don't want to hang out with the retirees. You want to hang out with the superstars.
Yeah. And like any situation, whether it's, you working at the Athletic or anybody just finding a job in any industry, it's like you want to put yourself in the best position to succeed. So if you're a young player in MLS, cutting your teeth, I get to play against all of these great superstars I looked up to. I have their posters on my wall. If you get an opportunity to go to a South American league or somewhere in Europe or something like that, like I think it's hard to pass up. That doesn't mean you can't come back to MLS, but I think you have to figure out what the best move is for your career. Like, what are your goals? If your goal is to win a Champions League, you obviously are not going to be able to do that playing in MLS. If you want to grow the sport in a certain country, you can be that flag bearer and say, hey, I want to be like Oscar and try to really grow soccer in China. I don't know how much they paid him. Obviously, I'm sure it was a pretty penny, but he became that flag bearer. And I'm sure a lot of people, again, depending on the TV rights, were probably trying to tune in to watch him. It's the same with Messi, that Apple TV broadcasts all around the world, MLS season pass, 1,000%. Their numbers increased when Messi joined Miami. Do those numbers go down when he leaves? 1,000%. But how do you then keep that audience and have them engaged in the post-Messi era? And I know we're so focused on Messi, but he is the greatest soccer player of all time. He's one of the greatest athletes of all time. He's one of the most popular, all that kind of stuff like that. Suarez, Busquets, Alba, DePaul, those guys would not be playing in MLS if it wasn't for Leo Messi, because they wanted to play with him.
100%.
Right? Every player wants to play with him. Every player wants to be him. Every kid wants to meet him. People are running onto the fields trying to get selfies. Like, they're not doing that for insert random player. And I'm not only talking about MLS, I'm talking about any league around the world. It's Messi and Ronaldo, 1 and 1A, period. But again, going back to just MLS in general, you need to be more reliant on the whole breadth of the league and not just Messi in Miami. And now it's going to be Son in LAFC, because Son is he's 33 now. Give him 2-3 seasons. I forget what the contract is, but he's not going to play here until he's 40. So then after that, who do you have in LA?
NWSL is so much more competitive and interesting as a league. Foreign stars, young, super competitive women are coming here because they look at Europe and they're like, it's okay. Like if I play in one of the big teams, I'm always going to win. But if I come to NWSL, it's going to be challenging to me. I'm going to learn so much. This is a great league. So like, there is a great example here in the US. Like women's soccer league is the best women's soccer league, I think, by far in the world.
Players want to play in the best league. They want the best competition. Iron sharpens iron, that whole thing. Are players coming to Major League Soccer? And again, I'm not trying to shit on MLS here by any means. I've followed it probably since the league began. Like I said, the Metro Stars and all that fun stuff growing up in New Jersey. But Messi didn't come here because he's like, oh my God, the last few years of my career, I want to play against the best players in the US. No, he came here because they paid him the money. He's got a part of the Adidas deal. He's got the Apple stuff. He's got all of that. And it's growing soccer here. Like there's definitely incentives for these guys to come here. And especially on the women's side too. If the NWSL is the best league in the world, which I agree with that, they're going to want to come here. It's no different than if I want to play basketball. I'm not going to go play, no offense, in Turkey. I want to play in the NBA because the NBA is LeBron and Giannis and the biggest names.
Whoa. I have to say something. Don't go to basketball in Turkey. Our basketball league probably can compete at European level in our basketball teams, especially Galatasaray is in Fenerbahce and some other, like they're really, really competitively better in Europe than football, just FYI. But I
purposefully said Turkey, but we can take insert.
So that you just get it out of me, right?
Exactly.
Like you're like, she's not paying attention.
A little dig in there, hits close to home. I know that. But no, realistically, again, if you want to be the best player in the world and compete against the best players, you go to the best leagues, right? Period. End of story. MLS, again, we love MLS. We have a lot of friends and connections at MLS.
It's getting there.
And I used to work for MLS clubs and all that stuff like that. It is not a top in terms of competitiveness, in terms of like if you take the best MLS team and throw them in the Premier League or La Liga, they are not finishing in the top half. They are probably getting relegated, let's be honest. So, but these guys are coming to the US because it offers something different. It's a different challenge. It's a different market. They're able to market themselves and become these bigger global superstars, and these leagues know it and the clubs know it. But I do want to give a shout out to MLS and soccer in the US because things have changed as it comes to the DP, right? I feel everybody was so focused on, we got to sign the biggest names. Sell jerseys, get butts and seats. Well, it doesn't always work out. I was at NYCFC the first season in 2015. We had David Villa, Frank Lampard, and Andrea Pirlo.
I was there. I went actually to like in 2016, I think, when I moved here, and I was dying to watch soccer. And where did I go? I wanted to go see Pirlo. So you see, like you get a butt in a seat for those players. That's
100%.
True. It works. But did I go the second time? I was there the second week in a row? I wasn't, because it wasn't.
I don't disagree with you, but I guess what I'm trying to get is, that first season when they had those three global superstars, guys, I grew up being like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm interviewing these people. You get the excitement around that and sell no Pirlo, no party t-shirts and everything like that. Andrea Pirlo was not an amazing MLS player by any means. I've seen articles online that name him as one of the top 10 worst DPs of all time. And there's plenty of these guys who have come in, made big money moves. They've sold the jerseys, they sold tickets, all that, and they don't produce on the field. So a club like NYCFC specifically, they were like, we're in New York. We have to compete with LA. We need to sign these stars. These guys had Beckham and, Robbie Keane and Zlatan and all of this. We need our stars. We need our East Coast stars, right? It's always New York versus LA. They didn't win. And I think the league went from being, we're going to build our teams around these aging superstars, to now they're going to complement the teams that we have, and they're going to be the cherry on top for fans and for broadcasters and all that. And a lot of that is with MLS developing homegrown talent and creating that pyramid that we have here in the US, right? With MLS Next Pro, which is basically, the reserve teams, and then MLS Next as well too for youth. I think it's U13 to U19. So it's like you sign these kids at a young age, you build them up through your system, and you build your own superstars. And then when you have a Messi and a so-and-so come in, and you mentioned Kromanski, he can benefit and ride those coattails of a global superstar like Messi. But in the past, it used to just be like superstar, and then a bunch of other guys.
It's going to take time. And I think this is like a great moment. It's like, we want to hear from you, like our listeners. Please send your questions over, send your comments over. We have social media handles, use them, comment on them. Thanks for listening. And shout out to our amazing producers, amazing team who puts this together for us. And please tune in a week, because we're going back to weekly cadence, and you will see and hear us every week continuously after August 26th. So we're looking forward to that.
Exactly. More of these friendly faces, so get used to it. Going back to David Beckham's underwear billboard.
You remember that too clearly, and I'm kind of suspicious why.
Sorry.
I want to go back and Google it now because I don't remember, but I'm sure I'm going to like it.
Yeah. Probably not safe for work. Maybe save it for, your personal time.